If you want to get in touch, 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors. Time for the performance rankings.
That wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performance was just lacked that intensity.
I was about to tweet yesterday that Meath's performance being so bad meant that we wouldn't have to listen to them being spoken about every week on the football pod. But in our pre-show meeting, we have Anthony Moyles on today, and Tommy was like, I've tipped him off that we're going to talk about Meath because they didn't score in the first half. I'm like, no. We're not talking about Meath anymore. We don't have to. They're off the agenda, right?
Galway. Shame on Galway for allowing Meath to score in the end yesterday.
Then we would have been allowed to talk about it.
100%.
They scored 6 points. It's like, who cares?
More shots to Galway, apparently, according to Tommy in the pre-show meeting.
That was it, yeah. Tommy's like, get me in there, coach. They're not in our performance today. They could be in red, but they're not.
No, there were two bigger, I think, defeats, if you want to call them that go straight into red this week. Dublin and, of course, Rory McIlroy go into the red this week. So we should start with Dublin. Beaten soundly by Armagh Saturday night at Croke Park. This is not a result that people saw coming. I think in our quick picks on Friday we all picked Dublin, but we did all sound a lack of confidence in our predictions that Dublin were going to win this because they weren't amazing during the O'Byrne Cup. They still got the job done. They still won it. They still came into this on the back of a couple of wins in pre-season. They were at home. The Hill was going to be back open, and there was enough there to be confident that Dublin would get the job done against a team who were potentially still finding their feet in Division 1. I guess perhaps we underrated just how good this Armagh team is and how ready they are to challenge for league titles, for Ulster titles, and potentially even for an All-Ireland over the course of this summer. And then we possibly, well, I would say definitely underrated just how big the problems are in Dublin at the moment. I definitely felt a couple of weeks ago that we would see a sting in the tail from Dublin either this season, next season, that they would do a Kilkenny/Kerry in the 1980s job and come back and win an All-Ireland.
I would like to say you were a lone voice on this show that said that.
Yeah, I was.
Just to put that out there.
And I just put that down to the degree of quality that can't have gone anywhere. Now, I stand by that part of the argument, which is that quality can't have gone anywhere. And you will not see Brian Fenton, Brian Howard, Ciarán Kilkenny as a collective underperform to the level that they did on Saturday night too often. That will come good for them over the course of this year.
Why?
Because they have shown in the past that they are generational talents.
Okay, but they've had their at-bat and they have won more than anybody has ever won. Mm-hmm. So not in a row, right? So they don't have the record yet. None of them have the record yet for the most individual. But they don't seem like they're particularly individualistic people. It's very difficult for them to be as enthusiastic about taking the punches and the training and the diet and the pliability and the physio, the hours and hours of that stuff for no money, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas for other teams coming now, like the greatest trick to get this Dublin team back is to somehow convince them that they need to do this, even though they're capable of doing it, because they know they're capable of doing it. Like, desire in sport is hugely important. And I'm not saying it's about hunger or any of that kind of stuff. It's creating the culture where they feel like they have unfinished business. But how do you have unfinished business when you did 6 in a row?
I would say that they have shown as a group over the last couple of years that if you aren't up to it in terms of your desire to win an All-Ireland, you can just walk away. You can just, like Paul Manning just walked away. Jack McCaffrey just walked away. We don't know whether or not there's a lack of desire from Stephen Cluxton. We will never know. But if you're not having it, if you're not feeling that level of want for this year's All-Ireland, people have shown that there's a door. Go and leave. What are you hanging around for if they're not prepared to show that level of commitment this year? So I've still got a couple of my chips in the Dublin are going to come back basket. But believe you me, I am frantically taking a few of them out of there and trying to put into the colour.
Look at Armagh and Derry.
That Dublin are not coming back this year because they were extremely bad at times on Saturday night.
There are a few very important players still to come back for them, and I think it's hard to know where Armagh are at, right? Armagh must be looking at Division 1 this year and going, if we establish ourselves as a Division 1 team over the next couple of years, every single year we're going to be in contention. And particularly if this is the end of the Ulster Championship being the millstone around Ulster County's necks that it has been, although they say they're going to go for it hammer and tongs, we'll see. then next year could be an incredible year because they're still a young side. Okay, they've a lot of maturity now because they've had them together for many years, but they've strength and depth. They have a definitive style of play. There's an evolution going on there. You can see Donaghy, right? You can see like the basketball stuff, and I think Armagh are really good. So I wouldn't overrate the crisis. I think it's being pronounced as a crisis in all the papers, and you see all sorts of wild speculation, which we've never seen really about the Dubs. Because they were winning every year, there was like minor bits of it, but they are prone. The GAA folk, the good GAA folk of Dublin, are prone to the same gossip as Mayo and Kerry. Mm-hmm. They've just been immune to it for the last number of years because of success. So I don't think it's as bad as people say. Like but I don't think that I'm certainly not shooing them in to be as good as the team of the last couple of years.
And I would say that they don't necessarily need to be to win in All-Ireland. I think that...
Do you not think the standard is getting better? That Tyrone and Kerry last year were at a very high level.
I'm not sure. I think that if anything, Tyrone showed last year that... so the standard of football was excellent, but Tyrone maybe showed that you can come from not anywhere, but from the mid to upper reaches of the top tier and win in All-Ireland and steal in All-Ireland, whereas it felt that Dublin were at such an unbelievable level that nobody could ever get there. And actually it was possible for a team of a lower standard than the Dublin 6 in a row team to come along and win in All-Ireland because Dublin's standards dropped. So can Dublin get to the level that Tyrone were at last year? I thought so a couple of weeks ago. The evidence, if you're going to base everything on Saturday night, is that they won't. But
well, it depends, right? If Conor Callahan comes back and is Conor Callahan from a couple of seasons ago, absolutely. And if James McCarthy comes back and is his Footballer of the Year standard, then that's a massive injection. But maybe they're at the same level of their form as the rest of the team are at the moment, and they don't transform the fortunes. It's hard to know, but they could, So that's why I'm not getting carried away about this. Like, do you expect Dublin to win the Leinster title and therefore to be reaching the All-Ireland quarter-final stage with, form and fitness? And it's 10 weeks to the start of the championship. And then there'll be another 6 weeks before we get to a meaningful game. But if they say they have to go through the back door and play a load of games and go on the road and have one of those seasons where we had a big night out after a qualifier against Leitrim up in Carrick. Everybody had a great time. We met the supporters and it was a real bonding moment for us. Let's wait and see.
When you mentioned there as well, like the 10 weeks of championship thing, I mean that's 10 harder weeks for Armagh, for example, to get into focus for than Dublin. I mean they need to be primed for that, whereas Dublin potentially don't need to be. Again, it's strange though that we even talk about Dublin in such a way because there was no priming themselves, it felt, in the league over the last couple of years. Every game they went out to and performed pretty well in. To be honest with you, there were only very small blips here and there.
Yeah. Much better, much bigger squad of players who are more experienced, and I think that's the key thing, isn't it?
That's
me anyway.
That is the biggest issue. Is that you're talking about Conor Callahan and James McCarthy coming back into the team? They're guaranteed starters. You're talking about some of the players that have won the All-Irelands and were part of 6 in a row. They're guaranteed starters. It felt that nobody was a guaranteed starter under Jim Gavin because of the depth, whereas now what you have is you have the subs and you have the starters and you have a couple of players who are going to start a couple of games and be on the bench in a couple of games, and there'll be a bit of mixing and matching there. But the competition for places is not what it was before. The next generation coming through have not proven yet that they're going to be up to the previous standard. But then again, the previous standard was the greatest team of all time, so it's going to be really, really hard to come anywhere close to that. What I'd be also concerned about is the direction that Dublin are playing in. Like, what is the identity of this Dublin team at the moment? It felt that chasing the game against Armagh on Saturday night, they didn't have a direct plan. They panicked a bit, but even at times it felt blasé almost about how they were going about the game, that there wasn't any urgency. And that seems like a really kind of contradictory thing to say, that there was panic and then there was a lack of urgency. But it felt that at times they were going lateral and then they were like, screw it, let's just go route one. And where was the penetration? Where was the Jack McCaffrey-esque run off the shoulder that could break down that sort of defence? I just didn't see it on Saturday, and it was very like the collapse against Mayo in the second half last year, where all of a sudden their powers of composure deserted them. Will they be able to get that back over the next couple of weeks? Well, that's something that they can work on.
Yeah.
But it's very worrying that it didn't exist on Saturday.
So you were actually at the game, right? You were down the bottom left-hand corner as we were watching on telly, were you? The first half? You
right
were
behind Rian O'Neill as he put over that beautiful curler off the right foot. Underneath
and
the
so
hook.
you would have seen the attacking formation of both teams like right in front of you, and it looked clear in the first half that when Armagh had the ball, everybody knew exactly what their role was. It was programmed where they were supposed to go. When they got there was options. You're creating an option for, if you go, like at one point a phalanx of Armagh players ran ahead of the ball and created space, and then gave options to the ball carrier to either he could pivot and turn around and kick if he wanted to, or there was a runner inside, which means that you're going for goal and you're looking for the fisted pass, the backdoor cut, as we kept seeing last year. And it was like, well, that's pretty interesting. They know what they're doing. These guys have been drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling, and they know what they're doing. In the second half, you're saying you saw none of that really from the Dubs.
No,
it was off the cuff stuff.
Yeah, and I think obviously the way they've played over the last little while is of such control that when they get into a lead, they're very hard to claw back. The problem now for Dublin is that since the gap is closed between them and the rest, is that they're going to be in a lot of losing positions, and they're going to be in a lot of topsy-turvy games. And I'm not sure this style of play actually suits that. If we're going to overreact completely to Saturday, and you're a Dublin fan, you might be pining for the days of the chaos again. Like, you wonder, is that actually just the way forward? And just say to yourself, screw it. We've got the likes of Scully, Howard, O'Callaghan, and we've got good forwards who can take a score. Fenton can take a score from open play. Dane Rock can do the same thing. Do you just like plug out the straitjacket and say, listen, not to throw the game plan away, because that's a good crutch to have if you are winning a big game, but to go back to the level of ratcheting up crazy. Yeah.
Mayo. So Mayo go a man down yesterday, and suddenly it's like, right, we're stopping the thing that we were doing up to this point, and then they go chaos, full Brownian motion, and kick 5 unanswered points to wrestle the game back to draw.
Yeah.
Like, that's it must be very infuriating when you're in charge of Mayo, and it's like, we're going to try and do this thing, and we're going to be the team who can grind out in All Ireland, and then it's not great. But then you go back to your DNA, and it's like, we're amazing, look at us. But you never know what's going to happen. You can't guarantee. So I don't know. I mean, it certainly sets the championship up for something pretty interesting. I think, and look, I think that Dublin have come back to the pack to the point where they're no longer a shoe-in for the top 4 in your power rankings on a week-to-week basis. I think at the moment you would have to say they have to come back, but I think they probably will come back to a level, and it's what that level is at. That's my question.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how Kildare go over the next little while, but maybe before that ball was thrown in Newbridge yesterday, you could have said that there was maybe 7 teams in Division 1 who could all take points off each other, or who could beat one another in a championship game. Maybe Kildare go on a great run now and it becomes 8 teams. But it does feel that you can throw a blanket over them to a certain point, especially this time of the year when the scores are a bit lower, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and look, Galway were full showbiz mode.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, look at us, we're back.
Yeah.
You know, they were pre-COVID league form again, and they've been flaky since. So who knows?
Yeah,
what's the real Galway? Stand up and tell us. Right, we got to move on from that. Who else?
Let's just mention Rory McIlroy in the red yesterday, because he bottled it in Dubai. There's no getting away from it. Like, it's very hard to kind of put a fine point on exactly what goes wrong with McIlroy in these moments. Granted, things haven't exactly gone wrong for him in Dubai too often in the past. He loves the place, but this was a chance to get a third title at this competition. Like, I mean, you see him with 4 holes left when Hovland is in the clubhouse, and you think to yourself, right, 1 birdie here will do it for McIlroy. And there's a couple of stuttering moments. There's that moment on the 17th, isn't it, when he goes onto the really thick stuff, or into the crappy stuff really near the crowd, and he's standing over the ball and he's like, this thing could effing go anywhere. And everybody at home is like, excuse me, everybody's like, this really reminds me of my own game. Wow.
Rory McIlroy's come to get you.
The Newbridge fumes have completely infected me. Everybody at home is like, yeah, this really reminds me of my own play. And then on the 18th, there's just this, not that you could see what was coming, but when the lads are finishing up in the green, and Rory's been in this position so many times before where he's standing over a ball and you have to wait. You're the last man out, and you're just standing over that shot for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, and you're thinking about it, playing it over in your head. You see the massive drink in front of the green, and you're like, all I got to do is just not hit that, especially given it was the second shot. He could have overshot the green and still got up and down and possibly got his birdie and not even needed the playoff. but he went for it. He went for the shot that would have got him into eagle position. And he ended up paying for it, and it wasn't even close.
Can I just make the other side of this argument is that he's won this competition tournament multiple times.
Yeah.
He's trying to find form. If he wins this again, he's standing there and there's the check and there's the trophy, and it's like, oh, it's great. I really love this place. But it actually doesn't mean anything in the long term for him. And I've hammered Rory in this show as much as anybody has, and kind of talked about whether or not he's even relevant when it comes to the conversations in the majors later on. It felt like he wasn't a couple of years ago, and then he wrestled the game back. And every time you think you're out on Rory, he pulls you back in. Right. He's had that shot. He won an Irish Open at the K Club with I think almost exactly the same scenario where he needed to hit the par 5 and 2, hits the par 5 and 2, wins the tournament. He's done that a million times. He's also crapped out. And you either see this as I'm going for this because I can. I'm making a pile of it and I'm going for it because I'm at that stage of my life where what difference does it make if I win this? Well, none really. A few extra ranking points. Another thing like. I think he's better to go for it and fail than not going for it.
Like I mean,
it speaks to I'm Rory McIlroy aggressive, and that's who I am, and I'm playing on my strengths, and I'm going to win or lose. I'm going to live or die by that. I die today, I'll live another day, and the only way he's going to win, I think, at the Masters is by being himself and being true to himself.
Like I like the attitude of don't give him the playoff. Like if that's in his head and he's seeing the two boys level on the same score as him, like his mentality would be like, don't even give him a chance for the playoff. Like
that's it.
I like that mentality. The thing is, like as I say, like the shot was appalling. Like I mean, it was a mile off. Like I know this has been spoken about so many times in the past, but like, does a more hard ass caddy change that shot? Is it like, hold on a minute, Rory? Like, I mean, you are great, and I admire what you're doing. But listen, here are the facts and figures. Here's what you've been like. I mean, you've birdied that. I think you birdied that hole the previous 2 days, and it's like this is statistically what you've been doing. This is exactly how you played a shot well, and this is how you're going to win this tournament. And I just wondered, did he need a cooler voice telling him that? A
computer instead of his mate.
A computer. Exactly.
I don't know. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Because like if he has the computer, is he even in contention this week, as opposed to having that friendly environment, which seems to matter so much to him?
I'm not sure, but like we were having this conversation last week with Nathan on the show about modern golf perhaps not having enough jeopardy, no Jean Van de Velde moments.
Well, there you go.
We got it, so at least we can put Rory in the green when it comes to drama.
The biggest winner in golf over the course of the weekend, though, was of course John Duggan, whose virtual insanity. I was watching this thinking, Zalatoris is in, and I had completely forgotten that it finishes on the Saturday. So I was like, Zalatoris doing pretty well here. I wonder what will happen tomorrow. Of course, the Farmers finishes on the Saturday, so it doesn't clash with the football on the Sunday. And Zalatoris was in a tie for the lead or a shot clear, and he had him at 28-1, a fiver each way. And then I scanned through the rest of the golfers and was like, oh, that's pretty good. So he's definitely going to make some money. But I had missed the fact that he had tipped Luke List at 80-1, who was bearing down on Zalatoris, who catches him and then duffs him up in the playoff.
Yeah.
And wins at 80-1.
Yeah, some of us were on the virtual insanity hype train last week, so I had a pretty happy Saturday night. I think I texted John Duggan at around 3 o'clock in the morning saying, I want to kiss you. And he was like, winning does weird things to people. And I was like, yes, it does, John.
So he was also up celebrating.
He clearly was. Like there was it was quite a compelling evening of golf, and I thought Jason Day was going to steal away our great winnings on Saturday night with his chip in from 100 and something yards, which put him into a share of the lead, I think. And I thought, right, okay, the Zalatoris List bromance is over, but it worked back out, and it was just a beautiful sort of tension-free playoff between two golfers that you've actually backed to win this thing.
We all watching JD's tips 23-35 on Saturday, and then just
you can't be like, I mean,
quoting your own WhatsApp. repeat. That's all you could say. That's fine. No, I didn't do any more. There you go.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
This week's virtual insanity coming your way on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Who's in the amber? This is harsh. Who's in the amber?
Oh, like I mean, people know, but somebody has to just go on the amber at some point. Like,
no.
Give me another.
What do you got against this history making team?
It's hard. Everything is either great or terrible all the time. So finding somebody in the middle, finding a bit of nuance is our biggest problem on the show. and the Ireland women's sevens team, they are the team of nuance this week. So the rugby sevens was on in Seville over the course of the weekend. In fairness, as in an overall sense, they were in the green. No getting away from that. It's just a final that has dented the level of green at the moment. So they made their first ever final in the rugby sevens. They go 12-0 up against Australia in that game, and then they lose in the final play of the game. It was absolutely heartbreaking stuff. An unbelievable tackle actually against the Australian player in that closing play, where you think to yourself, right, they've managed to save this thing, but Australia just had 3 players out wide, and they still managed to get over the line. So over the course of the few days, Ireland beat Poland, Brazil, Russia, Canada, and then England. Beating England was the big one. And like in an overall sense, you're looking at some of these players who are going to be playing in the Six Nations, obviously, from the end of March. And just the level that they're getting to is unbelievable. Like they do this thing on the rugby sevens, the DHL impact player, where they throw in your tackles, breaks, offloads and carries and gives you a total score. Lucy Mulhall and Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe came second and third respectively in that. So some of the figures from that: Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe had like 22 breaks over the course of the weekend. Lucy Mulhall made 68 tackles over the course of the weekend and made 100 carries. There were 2 unbelievable performers, and of course you'd like Bevan Parsons in that team as well, who was just a superstar. So it is, in fairness, a positive weekend for them. But you know what, we need someone in the amber, and Australia came back from the dead against them. The men's team then came fourth. They lost in their semi-final to South Africa on a 26-0 scoreline.
All right. Shifty Lad says, morning lads, I think the GA are missing a trick. The leagues dictate the best teams. The All-Ireland should be played in conjunction with the leagues. It happens in all sports, to be fair. Have a great week. Oh, and the Bengals. And then Andrew Garrity says, how about them Bengals? Well, the biggest win of the weekend, they're in green.
They absolutely are. Joe Burrow, and the ice that runs through his veins has got him into the green this morning. Somebody might have gone to bed early last night. Plenty of you would have gone to bed early last night, because when Patrick Mahomes is in a lead and playing out of his skin...
Was it 21-3?
21-3?
Yeah, they scored 3 more points in the rest of the game.
You can see why people go to bed at that point, but I'm not sure what I was doing, kind of clinging on, and what I was expecting to happen, because I wasn't expecting...
Did you stay up and watch the whole thing?
I stayed up and watched the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you saw it happen
I saw it happen in real life. You see, the thing is... when, I'm not sure how everybody else felt about this, when the Bengals actually draw level in this game, obviously there's a strange atmosphere coming from Arrowhead. It's that strange kind of mix between like a lull and concern. But it even kind of felt that the commentators didn't believe this was going to happen.
No.
I didn't believe this was going to happen. Like in my WhatsApp group, I was like, does anybody actually think that the Bengals are going to win this game? Now, the response from people who've been watching Joe Burrow for a long time was like, yeah, this is going to happen. But it's still Mahomes on the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem. It wasn't so much about it doubting Joe Burrow in any way. He's been brilliant throughout these playoffs. The thing was, there was like a full quarter left to go. Patrick Mahomes is going to get an opportunity to not score once or twice or 3 times, but he's the sort of guy who could fire in 4 touchdowns in the course of a quarter. And he was absolutely like a knife through hot butter in that entire offense in the first quarter of the game. So I just thought they would get back to that level. And it just didn't happen. He was dreadful in the second half. Even in overtime, then you think to yourself, right, I think the Bengals get the coin toss to go for heads. And you're like, what are you doing going for heads? And they end up losing the coin toss. And it's like, well, that's that. We saw this last week.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are going to win.
Away you go.
There you go.
And what happened?
And he throws a pick.
Like straight away. Second, third. It was in the first. So
yeah, in
their first 3 and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
their first whatever
set.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like a tip interception. Like what's the Sherman? What year was that when there was that tip interception in the big playoff game for the Seahawks against the 49ers, wasn't it? Sorry to bring that up again. It was very reminiscent of that moment. And then the way Burrow was playing in the second half, you're like, oh my God, they're absolutely going to do this, because they've obviously got Evan McPherson standing over the ball, and he's not missing at the moment.
He's a rookie
shooter, yeah. So
they got a rookie kicker. They picked him in the 5th round. You're not supposed to pick kickers because it's a waste of a pick. But this guy has just been unbelievable from 50 yards, no problems. And Booker missed a kick in normal time as well. So they missed. So there was kind of whole systems malfunction when they went 21-3 up.
Yeah, like completely. And again, those sort of moments seem relatively insignificant. One of the biggest system shutdown was right under. Did he stay up until halftime?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you saw the play before half-time.
Yes.
The Tyreek Hill getting stopped 4 yards out.
Why did not just take the 3 points on offer?
Exactly.
Like, they got greedy just before half-time to try and make it 28-3. And, 28-3, nobody's ever come back from that, have they? But, like, if it had gone 24-3, because 21-10 at that stage, because obviously
Yeah, to get a touchdown.
The Bengals had scored just before that. So I don't know. It just seemed like the type of thing that if they hadn't won a Super Bowl, you would say they're one of the flakiest teams of all time, because they lost last year, they lost this year, and they've, you have your quarterback in his peak years for not very long. So the other game last night finished with the 49ers blowing a 10-point lead and losing by 3 points. So the 3-point win in these two games, you can't really want for much more drama than that. And Odell Beckham Jr. played really well. Cooper Kupp scores 2 touchdowns, and all the big moves that the LA Rams made. This is, I think, from a other sports perspective, if you're not even interested in the NFL, they put all of their money into global superstars. They've got a Galacticos plan, so they've got like the most expensive cornerback and the most expensive interior defensive lineman, and they spent a fortune on getting their QB. And then in the mid-season, they went out and they got Odell Beckham Jr. and they traded for Von Miller. So they've no draft picks really. They never have draft picks. And in fairness, the 5th and 6th round guys that they have started to do well. But they're now in the Super Bowl with a bunch of superstars who are all fit, playing in their own stadium. There's never been a team who's won the Super Bowl in their own stadium until last year when Tom Brady did it. And this year there's a chance for the Rams to do it again for the second time. So
Glazers, Kroenke, back-to-back Super Bowls as well. The good guys sometimes do win.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure they are. Arsenal fans are delighted.
Yeah, look at how well you've invested in this team. And
so you spend lots of money on superstars and it seems to work. I mean,
yeah. What's the problem here? I wonder. Yeah, and also, like, I mean, the lesson about for other sports as well is just how amazing the draft system works in the NFL. I mean, the Bengals turnaround to go from first pick 2 years ago to in a Super Bowl at this point. Obviously, last year, I presume, helped them a little bit. Burrow got a season-ending injury, and their record was terrible as well to go 4-11 last year.
Just think about how these playoffs have gone. So the Bills are the best team in football 3 weeks ago when they put up record-breaking numbers to annihilate the Patriots. The next week they go out in an absolute cracker against a team who must be better than them because they just beat them, and then that team gets beaten by another young superstar quarterback. So the AFC is set up for like incredible rivalry for the next 10 years if those three quarterbacks can all stay fit. But yeah, get on the NFL bandwagon. It's probably too late this season because the Super Bowl is actually the hardest one to watch because it starts so late.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's probably seen fewer Super Bowls than AFC Championship games over the last few years, to be honest with you. Unless like, we could just move the show to like 12 hours later or something like that, and that would be
maybe
ideal.
There's a case for that, is there? Would you all kill us if we didn't show up at 7:30 on the Monday after the Super Bowl? Instead, we started at 10 o'clock. What do you all think out there? give us a quick yes or no in the YouTube comments.
We should get to the last point then in our performance rankings this morning, and Rafael Nadal is the last person in the green. Again, not something that many people would have seen coming if you had known the inner workings of the Rafael Nadal camp 2 months ago, because his injuries were so bad. He was pretty emotional, even just getting to the final at the weekend. His foot injury last season saw him miss the entirety of the second half of last season. Then he got COVID in December. He said afterwards yesterday that he had a lot of conversations with his team, with his family, about what's going to happen next in his career, like really considering retirement. Yeah. Really considering just giving it up, and all he wanted to do was to play high level tennis again. He just wanted to get back in the court. He's always been asked about 21 and trying to get there, maybe less so than Djokovic, but his thing over the last couple of weeks has been, I'm just happy to be back playing tennis again. I don't care about 21. I'm just happy to be here. And maybe that's, if you're looking for lessons from other sports, I mean, maybe that's a lesson for a lot of people. The eyes were not on the prize. The eyes were just on enjoying each match as it passed. Maybe deep down there was a deeper determination there, and I'm sure there was. But getting to 21, I might have said a couple of years ago he would have been the least likely of the three to get there, just because you thought you'd back him every day on a clay. But there were obviously three other windows for the other two to potentially come back and extend the lead in some way, particularly Djokovic. Obviously, there were different factors at play for this year's Australian Open. I mean, we'll never know what would have happened had Djokovic been there. But second major of the year is Roland Garros. Be backing Nadal to get to 22 before Djokovic gets to 21.
Yeah, might be no Djokovic in France as well, unless he gets the jab in the meantime, which, would have made the whole problem disappear in the first place.
Yeah, but we shall see. Maybe COVID will be totally gone by then, and the idea of vaccination will be entirely in the rearview mirror, and Djokovic can get back to winning slams.
Shane says Meath should be in the red, but they don't really register. They're not relevant anymore, are they? I mean, when they're relevant, come back to us. Isn't that it?
Yeah, they're your words.
You're going to drop them a couple of pages. They're on page 4 now after the humiliation of not scoring in the first half of a league game.
It's bad. Like, it was a bad weekend for the most talked about counties in the power rankings, namely Meath and Cork, both beaten soundly yesterday. So maybe the time is to talk about other counties, not Meath and Cork.
Aina Carroll says 21 years ago it was the All-Ireland final. Now Galway versus Meath doesn't even make the performance rankings.
Yeah, sorry about that. Division 2 often gets overlooked when you've got the former 6-time All-Ireland champions getting hammered so soundly on Saturday.
I wonder, did anybody have an accumulator with the draws and the doubles being beaten?
Yeah, probably not.
What the price would have been?
Like, the thing was when we were coming out of Newbridge yesterday and Tyrone versus Monaghan was on, it was like, we don't even need to watch this game. This game is 100% going to be a draw, given the results that had developed earlier in the day and the fact that it was Tyrone and Monaghan.
No James McCarthy, no party, says Philip.
Yeah.
It's, let's add him back into the team. But in the second half against Mayo last year, everybody looked like the system's failure had happened. So let's wait and see if the reintroduction of everybody fixes the dubs, because you would certainly say that the plan needs to be more obvious to everybody. We need to see the plan before we can I think fully assess whether or not it's working. And then Flying Hellfish 99 says, are these playoff games epic comebacks or epic meltdowns? I think there's definitely a Mahomes meltdown that people are going to talk about in that one. And I don't know, I haven't watched back the 49ers Rams game yet. I may never do that. We'll see.
Don't do that to yourself.
0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. If you want to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. You can leave a comment, get us on Twitter at Off The Ball AM. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications, because anytime we go live, we'll ping you a little message and you can just hit the button and away you go. Likewise on the OTB Sports app. We're going to take a quick break and we're back talking Gaelic football with Anthony Moyles.
OTB AM's Pressure Rankings with Gillette.